La Parisienne est insoumise. Elle met un point d'honneur à ne respecter aucun règlement. Elle n'en fait qu'à sa tête. Entre désinvolture et rébellion, il n'y a qu'un pas.
My name is Amal Amer. I am an artist from California who's living here. I am 23 years old and I currently work in Paris as a studio assistant for a photographer, and I teach classes as well, both English classes and art classes. And I also do a podcast called Diaspora Babes, which is like my pride and joy right now. So I graduated college in 2017. Well, university is what people call it. It was people call it here. So I graduated, and it was just like kind of a moment where I had studied art and gender studies, like feminist studies, and so I didn't, have necessarily a profession that was immediately before me. And the political situation in the US is complete shit right now. Life there is really not sustainable, and I'm hoping that I can make a better life for myself somewhere else, and Paris was just a good option because my partner is half French, and so it was a perfect way, or my partner is French rather, it's a perfect like entry point into a new life. The first year I was here, I was super sick, like physically sick as well as like really depressed. So just a whole mess. And right now I'm in this transition point where like I'm starting to get things going, and like I'm starting to make connections and meet people and do my art and get like shows and do all of these things. And so it's like my life has just sped up so quickly. And seriously, like a year ago I could never like imagine being as comfortable as I am right now. Like things have just changed so much. So, and everyone's told me like the first year is really hard, and that was definitely true. So things are better now. I'm non-binary, and that gender identity is like separate from my gender presentation. So I can present more feminine or more like masculine depending on how I feel, but my gender identity is like is something that kind of like has both of those qualities, I guess. My ideal kind of like style is feminine masculinity, kind of like David Bowie or Prince or something like that. I don't know, these terms masculine and feminine, like we're all just trying to figure it out. Anyone who's like this is how it is like has only just figured that out. So, these are terms that I'm exploring, and I'm trying to give myself a lot of space to not know. So that's something that's really interesting because France is so colonial still. Like, it is not post-colonial here at all. Like advertisers have not figured out yet that they can make so much money by advertising towards like les personnes racisées, towards people of color. Like I don't think they figured it out yet. On the one hand, when you're in the US, you're like, okay, these companies who are owned by rich white men are profiting off of advertising towards me by including, plus-sized models or queer people or people of color. But at the same time, you can still see yourself reflected in visual culture. Here, oh my god, on the metro, it's like only these white girls with these big eyes and like straight brown hair, like soft brown or blonde hair, like on the advertisements or in the movies. And it's like, how are people not so bored of this? Like, where is the relevancy? But at the same time, like, I know so many amazing young les artistes racisés ici qui fait des choses trop cool comme toi, et so I hope it's gonna change, but like I don't know what I don't know what's good. And it's interesting too because it's like I'm an outsider as well, so it's not like I necessarily like know better or know how to fix a society, but it is just really obvious in France how like colonial so many of the systems of cultural production are. French people love to talk about religion because they're more comfortable talking about religion than they are about race, and saying that religion is bad instead of race. But at the same time, I used to work for I was a nunu for a Catholic family here, and they want to keep their religion as well. They just, are interested in keeping things white and keeping things, and the easiest way for them to keep things white is to keep things Christian and stuff like that. It's not even about the religion, it's about the colonies. It's about the relationship to the colonies, like in Africa and the Caribbean, and it's about Algeria and Morocco and Senegal. Like, that's what it's about, Yeah, it's just really racist. It's just really racist. I'm just glad I don't wear the hijab anymore because I would get harassed so much. Like, yeah. I don't necessarily know what to say so much because I don't wear hijab anymore. So it's like, I don't necessarily get bothered as much because of it. But I will say what's interesting here, it's not really about Muslims, but people do recognize me as as Arabi here, whereas in the US people usually think I'm Latina, for example, but here they know immediately kind of my ethnic background.
J'adore le vin rouge, j'adore le champagne et je fume ma petite cigarette. Ça aussi, c'est très parisien, je pense.
I do a lot of different types of medium. My background is in painting. I'm an incredibly tactile person, so everything I do is kind of focused on the textures and the feelings and how it looks, and the painting work I do is incredibly gestural. It's always kind of a mix between the figural and the abstract, and gesture is something that you can take into different media as well, so through my dance or through my video work. And so like I was saying, painting, watercolor and oils, photography. The amazing thing about photography is not only can I do it quickly, but it becomes very social. Whereas painting, it's you're sitting down in the studio and you're mostly working by yourself with your music, and sometimes that's really great. But with photography, at least for the shoots, then it becomes a community thing. So the very first photo projects I did were relational. They were almost like performance work. It was this series called Pin Up Put Up, where I took queer folks of color and we I did their makeup, and we co-created these pin-up characters together, the old 1950s pin-up girls, but they're usually white, but I did it with a bunch of personnes racisées and queer folks, and so it was this transformation that would occur with the people that happened together once you applied colors, again, because I think of makeup very much like painting, colors and costume, and this whole new persona would come out when I did that. And, when we're talking about activism and stuff like that, political, for example, rights are so important, but I think one of the other things that we need to work on is, or that I choose to work on, is the changing of narratives. Even when you have stories that are about Black and brown people, it's always kind of from this very Western liberal perspective of an individual and the world and stuff like that. And I think that we're in a point right now where we need to focus on collective narratives, on collective change, on our interconnectedness, and on our interdependence as alternatives to hierarchical capitalism. And that's the sort of thing that I do through my art, through the podcast. All of my art is for queer POC. It's for and by queer POC. And with Diaspora Babes, I'm working on creating institutions where we don't have to wait for just white people to our art and to validate it and to give them money and attention. Queer POC have always been the people who are creating culture, and I think it's time that we just focus on that and build that. C'est fini?
Oui.
Merci, thank you.